Not quite 2 years ago, when the new IBM Security division was created, one of the promises was to, improve the integration between the products and make life a lot easier for security professionals out there. Let's see how we've been doing on that promise, not even after 2 years. So obviously, most of the integration revolves around QRadar, and for good reasons. Let's start with one product, for example. Let's start with AppScan. Well, we have for quite some time right now been able, and even before the acquisition, been able to have through a DSM to be able to collect AppScan events. And that also allows us to, even from the beginning, to get on the asset database data about vulnerabilities, so QRadar can give more relevance into offenses that are, for example, if we see a SQL injection type of traffic on an IP that has a vulnerability for that type of events, then that offense pops up. But we are doing even more than that. One of the things that we can actually do is, with the integration of the QVM, or the Vulnerability Manager, we are having a deeper integration now, and we can actually do things like find out which vulnerabilities can be remediated by AppScan and assign them to the AppScan guy for him to actually fix them. Let's see how we can actually do that. We are here at the Vulnerability Manager tab of QRadar, and we can do a search now for what's the category? External reference type of equals to AppScan. So what are the things that AppScan can actually fix for me? And these are the 29 vulnerabilities, and these are the type of things that AppScan is so good at. XPath injection, blind SQL injection, cross-site scripting. This is stuff, SQL injection. This is stuff that AppScan excels at, and no standard vulnerability scanner can get to the deep the depth that AppScan can actually get you. But we can actually go ahead and pivot these on the instances. These are the vulnerabilities. Which are the instances? Which are the IPs that have this vulnerability? Well, here they are. Actually, quite a few of them, 174, as we can see. So we can actually do things like, well, I'm going to assign these vulnerabilities, go here, action, and assign to the AppScan guy, whoever that guy is. I will have it defined on the system and select it here, and put the comments and see when I expect these to be fixed by a particular date, and the system actually follows that up and has the nagging reports to make sure that those get actually fixed. So right there, AppScan can save me a tremendous amount of work by knowing that I can fix those vulnerabilities. But I can also do a search and see, actually we can do a new search, or we can actually remove this on this one and see which are the vulnerabilities that AppScan found for me. And one of the parameters that we have is here, found by scanner. And we're going to say, well, AppScan, which vulnerabilities did you find for me? And we see that these are the actual vulnerabilities. So if you don't have AppScan, then you can see how much AppScan can save you by showing the vulnerabilities that it can actually patch for you. Let's move on now to IBM Endpoint Manager, also known as Big Fix, company we acquired many years ago, and also Tivoli Endpoint Manager. Well, we have had for quite some time, the capability of listening to events that apps can find. But now we have a more sophisticated adapter. We released 7.2 MR1 that over SSL it's capable of sending the queries over SOAP messages. It's a very nice interface. And what are the things that it can tell you? Well, again, as we did with AppScan, QVM now and in QRadar can tell you which vulnerabilities can be patched with Endpoint Manager, which is kind of nice. Same thing we did with AppScan. But the integration in here gets even deeper, because now we can even look from QRadar into Endpoint Manager and see which vulnerabilities have actually been patched. No longer we need to be told that these have been patched and we need to believe that that's the case. No, we now can look from QVM into that and actually see whether that's the case. Let's show that. So with Endpoint Manager, now we can actually do a search and look here for patch status, and actually the patch status will be fixed if actually Endpoint has fixed those. And as we did with AppScan, we can also do a search and see which are the vulnerabilities that Endpoint Manager found for me. Here's right there. It's the one that comes first. So let's take a look at how much Endpoint Manager has done for me. Oh, look at that. Quite a few vulnerabilities, 312 that actually I can have it fixed for me automatically. So this is the case in AppScan and BigFix and many of the other integrations that I'm going to be talking. On the reports tab of QRadar, I can produce reports about the things that I've been doing with those products, etc. For quite some time, one of the clever things that the security division did is say, well, with this treasure of data from the X-Force, why don't we do daily updates on the vulnerabilities? And in the X-Force, we are quite up to the task of knowing which vulnerabilities have actually been published, and get that. And we can we sometimes even publish the ones that we find. So we get daily updates. So when you get a new vulnerability, QVM knows about it and can even warn you about the things that you need to fix that you didn't know before. You don't have to wait for the next patch cycle. But also we feed into it IP reputation, which allows us to give relevance to, when you see an IP talking to another IP that has bad reputation, then of course you're going to be told. But one of the things that we have also done with our XGS IPSs, our next gen IPSs, is that now we have a way of really communicating both ways. Not only we have, as for quite some times, we send events into QVM to notify about bad things that the IPS has detected. We've been doing that for quite some time, but now we have the capability of actually finding out which vulnerabilities can be fixed by our IPS, can be stopped by RPS, which is great. Can save you a tremendous amount of work if I know that by just changing the configuration and enable some blocks on my IPS, I don't have to worry about those vulnerabilities. Yoo-hoo, that's a good thing. But we don't have to do as we did with AppScan and even BigFix or IBM Endpoint Manager, and have to assign them to a user, because now we can have, if you set this integration point on, you can automatically send them to Site Protector. So you see those things automatically as they are found into Site Protector and say, hey, it will be good if you actually enable these blocks, because that will save us a tremendous amount of time. But also, let's go into the console, into the QRadar console, to show you, what I some of these things actually. If I go here into the search and I'm gonna do a new search, and I'm gonna see here, what's the parameter? I think it is vulnerability has a patch, has a virtual patch from our IPS. Click OK and do a search. What do we get? Look at that, 360 vulnerabilities that I can stop worrying about, because just by having the guy in Site Protector, automatically will see that he needs to apply these virtual patches, and these vulnerabilities are going to be history. Another thing I forgot to actually mention before when I was talking about the X-Force is that I can actually see which of the vulnerabilities has an external reference with the X-Force. In here, I have the X-Force right here, and I can actually see which those are. Nice integration. Area of big data, we have released the integration with Big Insights, which is an extension now to QRadar. And actually there is a video, if you Google in YouTube QRadar and big data, you're going to find the actual demonstration that show that actually live. We also have DSMs for the mainframe. So now no longer the mainframe is not part of your SIEM strategy, but we have done something even more remarkable, which is through C-Secure that you install in the mainframe, we can actually filter using one of the C-Secure components called Z-Alert, which are the mechanisms, which are the events that I'm really care about. So without this, if you send all the DSM events, which are many, onto QRadar, of course QRadar can handle them, but you need to write the, probably special rules, and well, there's no need to actually do all that processing up here. You can actually do that pre-processing by Z-Alert, and you, on the mainframe lingo, on green screen, with mainframe savvy people, you set up what are the things that I'm really care about, and those are the only events that are sent via syslog into, or via the DSM into QRadar for it to actually process them. You can actually treat every one of those as an offense because they have been pre-filtered by C-Secure Alert. Also, something similar we do with Guardium. With Guardium, again, if you're going to be sending all the logs from a database, good luck, because they're going to be way too many, and also you're going to slow the performance of your database. With Guardium, what you do is similar to what you do in Z-Alert. You're only going to be sending the things that are really relevant, the things that are a policy violation in the database, with a level of depth that nothing else in the market can actually do, and you don't have to turn the logs on, which is a big thing. But we also send now vulnerabilities. I mean, one of the things that Guardium is spectacular in doing is it's able to find vulnerabilities that exist within databases. Even, for example, if it's a Windows thing, it can even look at the Windows registry and find that the particular configuration makes that database vulnerable. Something that traditional scanner cannot do. Well, it can send all those vulnerabilities into QVM, and we've seen all the good things that QVM can do. It's actually, if you search QVM demo on YouTube, you're going to find details of that. And also in YouTube, there's the integration demo that shows Guardium working with QRadar. We also have, actually pretty soon we'll be releasing a DSM for Trusteer. So we get out of this acquisition, we'll get the events that Trust Theory is finding both at the endpoint as well as the server, which has a tremendous level of intelligence. We already have had for actually quite some time DSM for our access management product, that wonderful appliance with sophisticated authentication mechanisms, and which is very useful to find, for example, login failures into your access management. We also have integration DSM for our identity management product, so you can get group information, access right, etc. As you see, we've done quite a few things, and it's not even been 2 years. But as you see, next time that we'll talk, probably we'll have to draw a bigger box because there are many more things coming.